Bill Nye, the science guy, who I actually didn't grow up watching because I had very limited access to television, as you could imagine. But Bill Nye, the beloved science educator for many of us, for many young folks, is now kind of something of, I guess I would say I think he's just sort of he's still doing what he's always done, but a little bit, in more controversial topics. He's basically a public educator and a public advocate of science. Would you say that's a fair way to describe him?
That is a very accurate way to describe Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Okay, so Bill Nye the Science Guy is a public advocate of science, and with that mandate, he's now, and I'm sure many of you know, because I know there's a lot of fans of his in the audience, he's taken on a broader set of issues. So he's debating creationists. He's sounding the alarm on the climate crisis. And he's wading into what shouldn't be controversial territory, but is controversial territory because we live in a really, really crazy world. And he was on Crossfire yesterday, or a couple days ago, with Cupp and Van Jones, who are the co-hosts, and an economist from the Heritage Foundation, who will jump in a little bit. And frankly, I don't even care to mention the guy's name. I don't have it in front of me, and it's not worth looking up. But it's an economist from some guy from the Heritage Foundation who's there to basically provide pseudo-intellectual justifications for why we should all slide into oblivion. But there's a lot in this clip that I shouldn't have dismissed when I first heard it. There's actually a lot here. Cupp does something that is so obnoxious, and Bill Nye is absolutely right, but I think that there's some new solutions we got to figure out with how to communicate about climate. Let's play the sound.
Even if what Van and the White House are saying is all true, the scare tactics have not worked.
Let me ask you, before you go on.
Well, no, let me finish my question.
Let's talk about the facts. You're saying that
No, let me finish my question, Bill. I want you to take a look at this polling. Only about 36% of Americans think global warming is a serious threat to our way of life. Now, again, let me posit. Everything that Van and the White House have said is true. However, the scare tactics have not worked, and don't you need public consensus to move the needle on this?
So how do you want to get public consensus? By saying that it's not happening, that it's not serious, that shorelines aren't flooding, that we're not...
No, I want you to advise the politicians.
Advise the politicians.
Because they're not, whatever they're doing, whatever Van is doing to scare the public is not changing public opinion.
Inform the public, but go right ahead.
Tell us how to use the science to actually change public consensus.
Well, you get the message out that this is serious business. And, if you live in Oklahoma, where tornadoes have wiped your town out a couple times, you chose Alaska, which is remote generally, but when you remember Hurricane Sandy, the bottom half of Manhattan was flooded.
Yeah.
The economic effect of that alone is enormous, let alone the rebuilding infrastructure and so on. And we're in the developed world, where people can get on the highway and drive. When you say moving a highway 4 feet, it doesn't sound like very much, but you're talking about millions of tons of road that have to be lifted, and that energy has to come from somewhere, and that's just the start of things. So when we start having crop failures and the drought that's in California continues, the economic cost...
Yeah, well, you can look at these things, and you can look at the climate realities, and
Hold
even
on.
this NCA...
Pause it for a sec. Just want to say, this is the Heritage guy whose name I will not repeat. Go ahead.
A report says that the trend on tornadoes isn't certain. The IPCC report says that the trend on hurricanes is uncertain. We're in the longest hurricane drought. I'm not a denier. I'm not a skeptic. What I'm saying is the climate is changing. Yes, man-made emissions are in some part to that, but we haven't seen these extreme weather event trends. The observed data doesn't prove that.
Well, so I
More
disagree.
importantly is the policy prescriptions, these greenhouse gas regulations coming down, prohibiting building new coal-fired power plants is just going to make us less equipped, less economically prosperous to handle these problems, whether they're more frequent and more intense or not.
So let's just start with, we don't agree on the facts, right? So this third report came out saying it's very serious. You say no. Right? There's the essence of the problem, S.E. Well, the science, the researchers say yes.
Not all the researchers. And again,
hope.
even the IPCC says that there's no frequency or intensity when it comes to hurricanes.
Okay, hurricane, schmurricane, if I may.
This one says about tornadoes. It's the same thing. Yeah, sea level is rising, although it's retracted. It's increasing at a slower rate over the past few years. We've had Arctic ice
I think
globally
you're
increasing.
Data. I think
No, not absolutely.
Why did this report come out?
But Bill, isn't it a problem when science guys attempt to bully other people? I mean, Nick here had to say, I'm not a denier. He had to get it up. I'm not a denier, because really, the science group has tried to shame anyone who dares question this. Okay. And the point I'm trying to make is it's not working with the public.
Well,
and I think
let me ask you a question.
Okay. Two major.
My God.
Okay, exactly. That's the first reaction. So I just want to be put in really stark terms what S.E. Cupp is doing there. That's basically like if she was sitting in a room, and let's pretend the guy from the Heritage Foundation, let's personalize it. Let's say he's a patient. And Bill Nye is saying, you have diabetes and you're on the verge of getting lung cancer because you smoke. And the guy from Heritage is saying, well, I understand I have diabetes, but I don't accept that sugar causes diabetes because I can find one person that says it doesn't. And I mean, the link with smoking, I don't know. I kind of feel like I took this supplement product that I ordered from the Newsmax newsletter, and it says if I take it, I don't get lung cancer. So that must be true, right? And Bill Nye is saying, no, it's absolutely not true. Here are the facts of the medical diagnosis. You're in serious, your health is in serious danger. You need to do something now. And then Essie would jump in as a mediator and say, why are you bullying him? Why? What is it with you doctors and this whole sugar and diabetes link? And you're such jerks to people who smoke, telling them that it gives them emphysema and lung cancer. Why are you so arrogant?
Doctor, do I have cancer? Yes, you do. Why are you bullying me for?
Why are you bullying me? Why would you say such a thing? That's, telling someone they have cancer is a very hurtful thing to tell them. Telling someone that they have a serious health problem is just really egotistical. What a schmuck you are. So that's exactly why, this is the more subtle tactic on the right. So if you go to the Rush Limbaugh land and the George Will land, they'll still just straight up reject the science, period. Sky isn't blue. There's no climate science. The more refined method is, well, we don't really know because this is all so complicated and, who could possibly tell? And, while you're at it, I think you should be a little bit more open-minded. I mean, look, I understand that you say 3 + 3 = 6 and I say it equals 7.5. I think, look, we both have honestly held opinions. You shouldn't be such a jerk about it. I don't even want to give, the number example is maybe too tight an example, but the medical diagnosis example is exactly right. So what S.E. Cupp is doing is so profoundly cynical and disingenuous, it's mind-boggling. But I will say this, and Bill Nye, of course, is absolutely right. This new report that just got released from the White House, and the UN report, and any other report that deals with the consequences of climate change. There's not a single peer-reviewed study. There's some that don't mention the link. There's no serious academic study that's independently funded that contradicts the link of human creation of greenhouse gases and the climate crisis. But it's happening now, like Bill Nye says. The Southwest will fry, right? Like California's having a drought. We're going to have more extreme storms in the Northeast. Sea levels are rising and dislocating people, and there's climate refugees, and storms are getting harsher, and economic productivity is already losing because of this. It's happening now. This isn't a future event. It will get worse, but it's a present event. The problem is that I do see, and we'll get to this other clip in a second that relates to this, is Bill Nye is absolutely right, and he has all the integrity in the world, and everybody who's working this issue is absolutely right, and are trying to signal an alarm on the most important organizing existential threat we face. But the truth is that if just telling people the horrifying statistics and the objective science worked, we would already be in a different place. So those polls that Essie is citing they're true polls. And she's totally disingenuous because those polls are a result of people doing exactly what she's doing and organized campaigns of corporate misinformation. But it's true that people, and I think there are two reasons for this, because I think one hand, in a weird way, people who are deniers are living more consistently, right? Because they're going about their lives living completely delusionally and there's no problem. Those of us who know that this is an absolute catastrophic threat, well, maybe we do some things. I mean, it's great to live in New York City and not drive, and we try to recycle, and maybe we buy organic food or, whatever. But even those individual choices, obviously, unless they're significantly scaled, they're not going to do what we need to do. And we still have to drive and live our lives and engage in all these things that we know are fundamentally unsustainable. And then the other just quick point to make is I think that there is research on when people get overwhelmed by a message of crisis and complexity, they feel powerless to influence it. So I'm not really, I'm not saying anything that people who haven't been working on this for years don't know, but there is a challenge there because Bill Nye is absolutely right. How do we get people to really understand what this is and what this represents and what is occurring now, but in such a manner that they feel able to actually engage with it?
I would just like to point out how the data that SC Cupp brought up in this particular clip,
right?
It isn't even about the science of climate change
None of
anymore.
it's about the science.
Because they can't, some of these conservatives are realizing that there isn't any data out there that's verifying what they believe.
That's right.
So they're now using what the majority of people in America feel that climate change doesn't directly affect them. But you know what? They're not even asking that question to see how can we change their minds so these people can do something about it. They're using it as, so we don't have to worry about climate change. Listen, using that cancer scenario, if 50% of people, let's use the same stats, if 63% of people who had cancer didn't believe it was going to affect them, they still have cancer, it's still going to kill them, they still have to do something about it whether they realize it or not.
That's exactly right.